Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving headfirst into a crossover scenario that's so chaotic, it just might work. Picture this. The grim, dark future of the 41st millennium. Specifically, the polluted, clanking heart of Forge World Orks. Now, what happens when you drop the one and only Merc with a mouth Deadpool right into the middle of it? Let's find out. Our story, which we'll call the drop pod that wasn't, begins with an ear-splitting shriek tearing through the smog-choked skies of Orks. A flaming object, a comet of pure, unadulterated trouble, hurtles towards the planet's surface. Down in the sprawling manufacturing sector, amidst the endless rhythm of pistons and the chanting of tech priests, alarms blare. This isn't your typical Tuesday meteorite. This thing is on a collision course with destiny, or at least with a very large, very expensive piece of Imperial machinery. It crashes. The impact is catastrophic, sending a shock wave of twisted metal and superheated steam outwards. It carves a furrow through a Hablock district, finally coming to a screeching, grinding halt in the middle of a Prometheum processing plant. For the local authorities, this can only mean one thing. Commessa Hester Cray, a man whose jaw is set so firmly it could probably deflect a bolter round, immediately gets the alert. His mind, conditioned by years of Imperial doctrine, leaps to the most logical and terrifying conclusion: chaos, heretics. A full-blown incursion. He rallies his troops, the Astra Militarum, garrison, their faces grim under the flickering lumen globes. "For the Emperor," he bellows, his voice cutting through the din. "Purge the unclean." They mob out, las guns raised, ready to face the demonic horrors they expect to pour from the wreckage. But what emerges from the smoldering crater isn't a hulking chaos marine or a gibbering demon. The hatch on the strange, vaguely pod-shaped craft hisses open, and out stumbles a figure clad in battered red and black. He's armed to the teeth, with a mismatched collection of swords, pistols, and what looks suspiciously like a rubber chicken strapped to his belt. He takes a moment, stretches dramatically, and surveys the scene. Towering, Gothic structures belch black smoke into a perpetually gray sky. Servitors, lobotomized humans repurposed as living machines, shuffle by, their metallic limbs worry. The air smells of ozone, oil, and oppressive zealotry. This is, of course, Deadpool. He cracks his neck, looks around at the industrial nightmare, and says, completely deadpan, "Okay. Either this is the worst Comic-Con ever, or someone spilled a whole lot of paint on a Nazi cathedral." He sniffs the air again, and it smells like my Uncle Jerry's garage after he tried to deep-fry a toaster. Funky. Commissar Cray and his men arrive, weapons trained on the bizarre intruder. Cray's face is a mask of confusion and rage. This isn't a demon. This isn't a heretic, he reckons. What? In the name of the Golden Throne, is this motor-mouthed fool in the ridiculous red pajamas? Deadpool, completely unfazed by the dozens of laser rifles pointed at his chest, waves cheerfully. "Hey, Velas! Lost a bit, are we? I was aiming for the annual Chimichanga Festival in Albuquerque. My GPS must have taken a wrong turn at the Eye of Terror. You guys got any tacos?" "No. How about a friendly wave?" He starts doing the wave, all by himself. The guardsmen just stare, their trigger fingers twitching. Commissar Cray is not amused. "Identify yourself, Xeno's filth," he roars, his hand instinctively going to the bolt pistol at his hip. The word Xenos seems to click something in Deadpool's head. Xenos. Is that like intergalactic Uber? Because I could really use a ride. And maybe a 5-star rating this time. My last driver complained about the singing. This is the moment everything changes for Forge World Orks. Cray sees an unknown threat, a potential agent of chaos, unlike any he has ever encountered. The Adeptus Mechanicus, drawn by the disturbance, sees a treasure trove of bizarre, non-sanctioned technology in Deadpool's gear and his strange vessel. The average factory worker just sees another Tuesday interrupted by something loud and explosive. But he sees a brand new audience, a whole galaxy that hasn't heard his jokes yet, a world full of seriously uptight people who desperately need to lighten up. As he dodges the first volley of lost fire with a theatrical cartwheel, he yells, "Whoa, whoa, whoa. Red lasers. So unoriginal. Are we sure this isn't a Star Wars convention? You guys in the white armor, you're a little short for stormtroopers." Just saying. The commissar, now convinced he's dealing with some kind of trickster daemon, sent by the Chaos God, Zinche, orders his men to open fire with everything they have. The manufactorum erupts into a symphony of violence and bad comedy. Explosions rock the area, but through the smoke and fire, you can hear Deadpool's running commentary. Ew, that one tickled. You know, for a bunch of guys who look like they worship a gilded skeleton, you'd think you'd have a better sense of humor. He pulls out his katanas, the blades glinting in the firelight. All right, let's dance. Robogoths. Time to make the chimichurri. The battle for Oryx Varn has begun, and its defender, or perhaps its greatest new nuisance, has no idea what a commissar is, but he's pretty sure he can make him laugh or cry. Either way, it's gonna be a show, and that's just the beginning of the madness. What happens when Deadpool's healing factor meets a Can a fourth wall break withstand the mind-scrubbing of the Inquisition? We're going to explore all of that and more. This is a collision of two universes that could not be more different, and the results are going to be absolutely spectacular. The grim darkness of the far future is about to get a serious dose of red, black, and utterly insane. Picture this: the grim, humorless expanse of the 41st millennium, a place where logic and faith are forged in steel and sanctified by the machine god. Now, drop the one and only Merc with a mouth, Deadpool, right into the middle of it. What happens when the irresistible force of pure, fourth wall breaking insanity meets the immovable object of the Adeptus Mechanicus? Let's find out. Our story, which we'll call the Heresy of Huma, begins on a dusty, rust-colored forge world. The air hums with the ceaseless prayer-count of machinery and the temps of ozone. Deadpool, looking as out of place as a rubber chicken at a state funeral, is admiring the scenery. "Wow," he says. "This place looks like my garage had a baby with a cathedral and then set it on fire." 10 out of 10, no notes. But his sightseeing is cut short. Emerging from the metallic haze is a procession of figures in crimson robes, their faces hidden behind cold, impassive masks, limbs replaced with gleaming chrome and worry appendages, the tech priests of the Adeptus. Mechanicus, they surround him, their optical sensors glowing with suspicion. The lead tech priest, Amagos, with more augmetics than flesh, points a mechadendrite. Tidpool's twin katanas, his voice, a synthetic rasp filtered through a vox grill. Decladis, 010001, 0111, 111, 1101, 1101. Those blades. They are unsanctioned. Their design deviates from the standard template constructs. They are heretical relics. A collective worry of agreement ripples through the other priests. They raise their galvanic rifles, targeting systems locking onto Deadpool. Deadpool, completely unfazed, strikes a dramatic pose, one hand on his hip. "Heretical, honey, these are vintage. And you guys," he says, gesturing to the robed figures, "are you like a discount Darth Vader fan club? I mean, the robes, the heavy breathing, the weird obsession with old tech. It's a whole vibe." He then saunters over to the nearest tech priest, the one who looks particularly rigid and official. "You know, for science," he whispers, before giving the tech priest a gentle poke in the chest with the tip of his sword. Just a little boop. The reaction is immediate and, frankly, Predictable. The air crackles with voltaic energy. A blinding flash, a deafening crack, and a volley of energized slugs slams into Deadpool, sending him flying backward into a pile of discarded servitor parts. Smoke billows from the multiple holes in his suit. The tech priests stand motionless, their weapons still aimed, expecting the matter to be resolved. The heretic has been purged. The sanctity of the Omnissiah is upheld. But then, a twitch. Groan. Deadpool sits up, shaking his head like he's trying to get water out of his ear. He looks down at his chest, which is already knitting itself back together. Whoa, rude. He shouts, brushing dust off his shoulders. Didn't anyone ever teach you to use your words? Or at least your binary screeches? He gets to his feet, stretching theatrically. Okay, my bad. I get it. No touching the merchandise. The tech priests exchange a series of high-speed binary cant, their internal cogitators struggling to process what they just witnessed. A mortal, struck by a full galvanic volley, should be a puddle of vaporized flesh. This is an anomaly. This defies the sacred laws of physics and biology as they understand them. Their logic engines are screaming. The Magos recalibrates. Logical conclusion. Initial volley, insufficient. Recalibrating. Applying overwhelming force. This time, the volley is not just from one rifle. The entire procession opens fire. It's a storm of superheated metal and electrical discharge. The sound is like a thunderstorm trapped in a metal box. Deadpool is tossed around like a rag doll in a hurricane, riddled with so many holes he looks more like a slice of Swiss cheese than a man. The ground around him is scorched black. This time, surely, the anomaly is corrected. Silence descends once more. The tech priests lower their weapons slightly, optical sensors scanning the still form on the ground for any sign of life. Nothing. The Magos begins a litany of purification. By the will of the Omnissiah, the unclean is made. He's cut off. A single hand rises from the smoke, waving cheerfully. Hi there. Deadpool's muffled voice calls out. Is it just me, or is it getting a little hot in here? And I thought my chimichangas gave me heartburn. He stands up again, the holes in his suit sealing up like magic. He strikes another pose, this time like a contestant in a beauty pageant. So, what's next on the agenda? Synchronized shooting. Interpretive dance? I'm game for whatever. The tech priests are frozen. This isn't just an anomaly, it's a paradox, a logical impossibility. Their processors are overheating. Error messages cascade through their internal systems. Flesh regenerates. Without sanctioned biologist's intervention, one mutters, its voice glitching. Data does not compute. Deep within the Forge Temple, alarms that haven't been triggered in centuries begin to blare. A high-priority astropathic message, encoded with the seal of the Inquisition, shrieks across the void. The message is short, terrifying, and straight to the point. Alert. Potential daemon host anomaly detected. SEC-TOR-7G. Subject cannot be killed. Repeat. Subject exhibits unholy immortality. Deploy or domayuzi. The tech priests look at Deadpool, who is now trying to teach a servitor how to do the Macarena. They look at the inquisitorial alert flashing on their data slates. Then they look back at Deadpool. Their cold, logical world has just been shattered by a man in a red and black suit who simply refuses to die. The heresy of humor has arrived in the 41st millennium, and the galaxy will never, ever be the same. The Inquisition is coming, and they're about to meet their most illogical, infuriating, and unkillable nightmare. What do you think would happen next? How would the Grey Knights handle Deadpool? Video opens with the sound of klaxons blaring and distant explosions. The screen is filled with the sight of a massive, ramshackle orc fleet descending upon a smoke-choked forge world. Green-skinned warriors pour from landing craft, guns blazing. Alright, so picture this. The sky over our beloved Rustbucket Forge world just turned a lovely shade of green. And I'm not talking about a nice, eco-friendly, plant-a-tree kind of green. A loud, obnoxious wog, screaming kind of green. A full-blown orc invasion. The air smells like fungus, cheap fuel, and questionable hygiene. For the local Adeptus Mechanicus, this is basically their worst Monday ever. Alarms are screaming, servitors are short, and the air is thick with the sweet sound of panic and poorly aimed orc daka. Amidst this symphony of destruction, what do we find? Not a stoic space marine, not a grim-faced guardsman. Nope. We find your friendly neighborhood Merc with a mouth, Deadpool, practically vibrating with joy. He's looking at this green tide of absolute chaos with the biggest, dumbest grin you can imagine under that mask. He sniffs the air, a connoisseur of carnage, and declares, "Is that unadulterated, weapons-grade stupidity I smell? Oh, it's Christmas." While everyone else is running for cover or bravely preparing to be turned into orc food, Wade Wilson is on a mission. He scavenges like a pro, emerging from a battered manufactorum, wielding a chain blade in one hand and a comically oversized bolter in the other. He revs the chain blade, the teeth gnashing hungrily. Finally, he roars over the din, his voice a beacon of pure, Uninghead glee. Something dumber than me, and trust me, that's a high bar to clear. Now, every orkwog has its head honcho, its big boss, its prime fungus. This one was no exception. A war boss the size of a small hablock, decked out in scrap metal and more skulls than a goth convention, was leading the charge. He's bellowing orders, swinging a power claw that could probably crush a land raider, and generally having a grand old time. He's the biggest and the baddest, the apex predator of this particular squad. And Deadpool, bless his cotton socks, sees this walking mountain of muscle and rage and doesn't think danger. He thinks opportunity. While Commissar Cray, ever the professional, is trying to rally a firing line of terrified tech priests, Deadpool spots his weapon of choice. It's not a Leskinen. It's not a melt. It's a rusty, yellow, industrial-grade forklift. Cray watches in sheer, unadulterated horror. What in the Emperor's name is he doing? He mutters, his face pale. But there's no stopping the red and black blur. Wade hops into the driver's seat, fumbles with the controls for a second, and then puts the pedal to the metal. The forklift lurches forward with a protesting squeal, directly towards the warboss. The orcs are confused. This isn't a proper charge. It's just, a forklift. The warboss himself pauses, his single, good eye squinting. Is this some new kind of Imperial super? A really, really slow tank, he roars, more out of confusion than anger, and raises his power claw to swat the yellow machine away like a pesky fly. But Deadpool isn't aiming for a head-on collision. Oh no, he's more creative than that. With the timing of a seasoned improv comedian, he cranks a lever. The forks, previously dragging on the ground, shoot upwards with surprising speed. It's a move born of pure, unadulterated, last-second inspiration. Sheer, weaponized enthusiasm. The warboss, caught completely off guard, doesn't have time to react. The twin prongs of the forklift catch him right under his massive, bull-like chin. There's a sickening crunch and a geyser of green. The warboss's head, still wearing a look of profound bewilderment, is launched a good 50 feet into the air before landing with a wet thud in a pile of discarded cogs. For a moment, the battlefield falls silent. Even the orcs stop shooting. The warboss's colossal body stands there for a second, headless, before crashing to the ground, shaking the very foundations of the Forge world. Deadpool, still in the forklift, does a little victory wiggle. He revs the chainblade again and yells, "Who's next for a free decapitation? I'm offering a 2-for-1 special. Limited time only." The sight is just too much for poor Commissar Cray. He's seen men vaporized by plasma, torn apart by Tyranids, and corrupted by chaos. But a warboss being unceremoniously taken out by a piece of loading equipment. That's the final straw. He stumbles to the side, leans against a wall, and promptly loses his regulation-issue lunch. The sound is descriptive. The Orks, on the other hand, are having a collective crisis of faith. Their biggest, meanest boss was just defeated by a pointy yellow box. According to Ork logic, this means the pointy yellow box is now the new boss. But the little red git driving it is way too small and isn't even green. The ensuing philosophical debate, which mostly involves them scratching their heads and looking back and forth between the forklift and the headless corpse, completely shatters their morale. Without a leader and facing an opponent who operates on a level of insanity even they can't comprehend, the green tide begins to falter. The wog turns into a war hut. A minute, Antenito. Let's get out of here. They start scrambling back to their ships, a disorganized, confused mob, leaving a trail of dropped shoppers and bewildered grots in their wake. The great wog of the week was over, not with a bang, but with the bewildered retreat of an entire army that just got out. Deadpool hops off the forklift, pats it affectionately, and strolls over to the still-heaving commissar. See him. Told you I had a plan. Sometimes you just gotta lift your game. He winks, though no one can see it. Courageous groans in response. The Forge world was safe. For now. And it was all thanks to a man, a plan, and a forklift. You just can't make this stuff up. Ever felt like your universe was just a little too small? Well, buckle up, because things are about to get weird. Our story continues with the Adeptus Arbites of Necromunda completely baffled. They've just witnessed a man in a red and black suit, who calls himself Deadpool, get vaporized by plasma fire and then just pull himself back together. Literally. They've seen a lot of strange things in the Underhive, but this was a whole new level of heresy. The precinct fortress is buzzing. Reports are flying. Vox channels are crackling with disbelief. The Arbites are trained for riots, gangers, and mutants, not for a regenerating, fourth-wall-breaking anomaly who won't stop making terrible jokes. Panic is a strong word, but they're definitely scratching their heads so hard they're about to hit brain. So, they do what any good Imperial citizen does when faced with something utterly inexplicable and probably heretical. They call in the big guns. They call the Inquisition, and when the Inquisition gets a call from Necromunda about an immortal, red-clad jester, they don't send just anyone. They send Inquisitor Vex Synthor. Now, Vex isn't your average Inquisitor. He's seen the horrors of the warp, faced down demons, and purged entire worlds. He's a man who has stared into the abyss and made the abyss blink first. He's stern, he's methodical, and he has a galaxy-sized migraine from dealing with heresy on a daily basis. He thinks he's heard it all. Oh, Vex. He's sweet. Summer child. You have no idea what's coming. The inquisitorial cruiser, the gaze of judgment, slices through the void, arriving in orbit above the polluted skies of Down in the grimy holding cell, Deadpool is busy annoying the guards. He's been trying to teach them the lyrics to Careless Whisper, critiquing their armor's color schemes seriously. Black and gray. Solas. Millennium. You guys need some pizzazz. And asking if they get dental. The guards are on the verge of shooting him again, just for a few moments of peace. Inquisitor Synthor's Thunderhawk descends, its arrival shaking the very foundations of the precinct. The ramp lowers with a pneumatic hiss, and out steps Vex, flanked by two imposing Tempestacines. His armor is ornate, but practical, his face a mask of grim determination. He strides into the precinct, his every step echoing with authority. The Arbites part like the sea, their expressions a mix of fear and relief. Vex doesn't waste time with pleasantries. His voice is cold, like the vacuum of space. Report. Show me the anomaly. They lead him to the observation room, overlooking Deadpool's cell. And what a sight it is. Deadpool is currently attempting to juggle 3 ration bars. He's failing spectacularly. Vex watches the grainy pict feed, his brow furrowed. This is the creature that defies death, he asks, his tone dripping with skepticism. The Arbite's prefect nervously nods. Yes, Lord Inquisitor. We have footage. He plays the recording of the earlier incident. Vex watches, silent and unblinking, as Deadpool is engulfed in searing plasma. He sees the pile of ash, and then he sees the ash begin to swirl, to coalesce, to reform into a human shape. He watches as Deadpool, fully reformed, dusts himself off and complains about the dry cleaning bill. For the first time in a long time, Vex Syntha is genuinely perplexed. He's seen psychic regeneration, foul sorcery, and Xenos biology that defies Imperial understanding. But this? ... This is different. There's no detectable warp signature, no sign of chaos taint. It's just ... happening. He leans closer to the armored glass, studying the figure in the cell who is now trying to start a wave with his guards. A flicker of something not quite belief, but a sliver of crosses Vex's stoic face. He mutters under his breath, a phrase ingrained in him since birth, a mantra of faith against the unknown. The Emperor Batats. ... Double quotes. He pauses, staring at the regenerating madman. Whatever that is. Inside the cell, Deadpool, who seems to have an uncanny ability to hear things he shouldn't, stops his antics. He looks directly at the one-way observation glass, as if staring right into Vex's soul. "Hey! You ducking 'bout me?" he shouts, his voice muffled but clear. He points a thumb at his own chest. "You mean me?" Of course he does. "I've got fan appeal, baby." The big guy in the fancy chair knows quality entertainment when he sees it. Unlike the writers on my last comic run. Oof. Talk about a drop in quality. Vex Synthor recoils slightly, not from fear, but from sheer shock. The anomaly. It hurt him. It responded, and it spoke of the God Emperor with a familiarity that was borderline blasphemous. Fanapelli, the Scions, shift uneasily, their hands tightening on their helmet. Was this some new trick of Xen? A new form of psychic warfare designed to break the minds of the faithful? What ... is it saying? One of the Scionth whispers. Vex holds up a hand for silence, his mind racing. This wasn't a simple heretic. This wasn't a mutant or a Xen. This was something else entirely. A psychic anomaly of the highest order. A being that seemed to operate on a completely different set of universal rules. And it was a talker. A really asterisk. Annoying talker. The Inquisitor straightens up, his professional demeanor snapping back into place. The confusion is replaced by cold, hard resolve. This entity, this Deadpool, was a threat, a riddle, and a potential key to understanding forces beyond his comprehension. Open the cell, Vex commands, his voice firm. The Arbite's prefect hesitates. Lord Inquisitor, are you sure? It's unpredictable. Vex gives him a withering glare that could curdle milk. I am an Inquisitor of the Ordo Hereticus. Unpredictable is my Tuesday. Now, open the cell. I will interrogate this fan favorite. Myself. The guards share a look that says better you than us, and move to comply. The heavy cell door begins to groan open. Inside, Deadpool claps his hands together gleefully. Ooh, a guest. Finally. I was getting so bored. Hope you brought snacks and chimichangas. Do you guys have chimichangas in this grim, dark future? It's a deal breaker, just so you know. The stage is set. The immovable object of Imperial dogma is about to meet the unstoppable force of fourth-wall-breaking insanity. Inquisitor Synthar steps into the cell, the weight of the Imperium on his shoulders, ready to face a being that might be a hero, a heretic, or just a psychic anomaly with a really bad sense of humor. What happens when you try to purge a man who thinks being purged is just part of the show? We're about to find out. This is going to be one for the history books, ... or the comic books. Log entry, STARDATE. Wait, wrong franchise. Accessing log archive 77. My designation is Magos Biolosius, Dominus. The subject of this study is an anomaly designated Deadpool. Initial observation suggests a highly erratic red and black lad. Humanoid, exhibiting impossible regenerative capabilities. The High Lords of Terra themselves have sanctioned this investigation, eager to unlock the secrets of its apparent immortality for the benefit of the Imperium. A noble, if somewhat messy, endeavor. My preliminary scans are ... perplexing. The subject's cellular structure defies all known biological laws. It appears to be in a constant state of flux, simultaneously decaying and regenerating at a rate that would vaporize a normal human. It's like staring into the raw, chaotic heart of life itself. Only it's wearing spandex and humming a tune I can only describe as aggressively jaunty. This is magnificent. The potential applications for the Adeptus Mechanicus, for the Emperor's finest warriors, are staggering. We could revolutionize battlefield medicine, create soldiers who can shrug off mortal wounds. Perhaps even reverse the sacred decay of the Golden Throne. The possibilities are as boundless as the stars themselves. First, we must secure the specimen. Standard procedure dictates a heavy sedative regimen. I have prepared a cocktail of tranquilizers potent enough to pacify a Grok's herd. My servitors, bless their simple loyalty, are administering the dose now. The subject is surprisingly compliant. It simply held out its arm and said, "Hit me with your best shot, Robocop. I've had worse hangovers. This is unusual. Most subjects resist. This one seems to be treating the entire affair as a mild inconvenience, like a long queue at the Departamento Munitorum. The sedatives are taking effect. Its incessant chattering has ceased. Finally, the blessed silence of pure scientific inquiry can begin. We are transferring it to the dissection slab. The true work is about to commence. Log update. The subject is secured on the dissection slab. Vital signs are, well, they're present. That's the best I can say. They fluctuate wildly, a chaotic symphony of biological signals that make a mockery of my most sensitive organ. It's time to make the first incision. The scalpel is a work of art, a monomolecular blade honed on Mars itself, capable of splitting atoms. I apply it to the subject's torso. The blade meets resistance, then parts the crimson fabric and the flesh beneath with a clean, satisfying hiss, and then the flesh knits itself back together. Before my very optical sensors, the incision vanishes as if it were never there. I increase the cutting depth, the same result. I try a plasma cutter, set to a low, cauterizing frequency. The wound smokes, sizzles, and then simply closes. The skin reforms, smooth and unblemished. It's not just healing, it's rewriting reality at a localized, biological level. This isn't biology, it's a miracle. Or a curse. The line is becoming increasingly blurred. The subject remains unconscious. Thankfully, its silence is a gift from the Omnissiah. Let's try something more invasive. Perhaps direct organ extraction will yield a different result. Log supplement. The attempt at organ extraction has produced unexpected results. As I reached into the chest cavity with my multi-jointed mechadendrite, the subject's eyes snapped open. Primera should note, my chronometer indicates it should still be under sedation for another 3 standard solar hours. It looked down at my arm, currently wrist-deep in its sternum, then looked up at me. It didn't scream. It didn't fight. It simply sighed, "Whoa, easy there, Doc. Buy a guide dinner first." I was, for the first time in my 300 years of service, speechless. The subject then proceeded to, well, it reached into its own chest cavity, next to my surgical tool, and pulled out what appeared to be its own lung. Itelditap examined it, and said, "Huh, I always wondered what that looked like." Then, to my utter horror, it attempted to inflate the disembodied organ by blowing into the bronchial tube, producing a rather pathetic whistling sound. This is beyond heresy. This is performance art. The servitors are frozen, their logic circuits clearly unable to process the scene unfolding before them. And it got worse. The subject, still wide open on my dissection table, then asked, "Hey, got a phone? This is totally going on my Instagram. Do you have Instagram here? Or is it, like, cogitate?" It then noticed one of the cerubic servo skulls flitting about the chamber, recording the procedure for archival purposes. Its eyes lit up. Can I have one of those?" Before I could react, it grabbed the servo skull, produced a tube of some highly effective adhesive from a pouch on its beltware. Does it asterisk these things? And summarily glued the sacred machine relic to the side of its head. The servo skull's little thrusters whirred in protest, but it was stuck fast. "Look," the subject declared, its voice muffled by its own mask. "I'm a telemarketer from the future. The sheer, unadulterated absurdity of it all. My logic engines are threatening to overheat. I have retreated to my scriptorium to update this log. The subject, which has now apparently decided the dissection is over, has somehow acquired a scalpel and is attempting to teach my servitors how to play tic-tac-toe on its own regenerating chest. It calls the game Extreme Operation. The servitors are confused, but not actively resisting. The one with the voxcaster for a mouth just keeps repeating, "Error does not compute." The subject pats its shoulder and says, "It's okay, buddy. We'll get you there. My entire understanding of the universe is being dismantled, not by a demon or a Xenos horror, but by this clown, this jester in the court of cosmic madness. My initial hypothesis was biological. Then I considered it a Worth-based phenomenon. But this is something else entirely. It's as if the fundamental laws of reality are simply suggestions to this creature. It doesn't just break the rules. It seems blissfully unaware they even exist. I attempted to delete the log entries pertaining to the telemarketer incident. They were an affront to scientific dignity. But when I initiated the deletion command, the data stream corrupted. The binary code flickered and reformed itself, not into a clean slate, but into a string of nonsensical symbols that, when translated from their base code, spelled out the phrase, "Nice try, Tin Man." He is regenerating even from data corruption. It's impossible. It violates the sacred tenets of the machine god. Data is absolute. It cannot be negotiated with. A new Vox transmission just came through. It wasn't from my command channel. It was from the comms unit of the Servoscal, currently affixed to the subject's head. The voice, unmistakably his, crackled to life. "Yo, Vexi-Trix. You can't delete the funny. It's the one thing more powerful than the grim darkness of the far future." He's right. I've studied the Necron, who have cheated death through biotransference. I've dissected Tyranid bioforms that adapt to any threat. I've even analyzed the psychic echoes of the Aldari, who persist after death. But this is different. It is an immortality not of the body, or the soul, or even the machine. It is an immortality of the absurd, a self-sustaining paradox that feeds on chaos and thrives on the unexpected. You cannot dissect a punchline. You cannot vivisect a joke. Final log entry on subject dead. My conclusion is simple and terrifying. The subject cannot be studied. It cannot be contained. It cannot be understood through the lens of logic or science. To attempt to do so is to invite madness. It is a force of nature, a localized reality warp, powered by sheer, unadulterated nonsense. The only logical course of action is to terminate the experiment. I am releasing the subject, not out of compassion, not out of failure, but out of a sudden, chilling understanding of self-preservation. Some things in this universe are not meant to be known. He is currently trying to convince my servitors to form a barbershop quartet. I must go before he names me the base. Magos. Vextrix. Signing off. May the Omnissiah have mercy on my Logi circuit. All right, settle in, true believers, because today we're diving deep into the grim darkness of the far future. but with a twist that's more chimichanga than We're talking about the one, the only, Merc with a mouth, and his absolutely bonkers vacation to the 41st millennium. The story, it's called the Tyranid problem, and trust me, the problem isn't just the bugs. So, picture this. The galaxy is, as usual, on the brink of being lunch for a giant spacefaring hive mind, a Tyranid splinter fleet, a terrifying wave of claws, teeth, and biomass-chugging horror descends upon an unsuspecting Imperial world. The sky darkens with spore pods. The ground shakes with the tramp of countless alien feet. The Astra Militarum is getting swamped. Space Marines are holding the line but taking heavy losses. Yes, it's Deadpool. He arrives, not with a solemn vow to protect humanity, but with a gleeful shout of, "Ooh, giant bugs. Can I keep one?" He volunteers to help, and his reasoning is pure, unadulterated Wade Wilson. He tells the bewildered Imperial Guard commander that, and I quote, "Bug guts look super cool in slow motion, especially with the right soundtrack." He's already got a playlist ready. The commander, faced with annihilation, just kinda shrugs and points him towards the biggest swarm. What other choice does he have? Deadpool, armed with a frankly ridiculous amount of C4, a couple of katanas, and a portable speaker blasting 80s pop hits, doesn't just charge the enemy. He swan dives into the thickest part of the swarm. He's a whirlwind of red, black, and gratuitous violence. He's dodging Hormigaunt claws, parrying Genestealer talons, and making terrible puns the whole time. A termagant tries to spit acid at him, and he catches it in a novelty oversized mug he brought with him, remarking, "A little bitter for my taste, but the aroma is to die for." Then he spots his main target. A living, breathing siege engine of chitin and muscled, tearing through a line of lemon rust tanks like they're made of cardboard. While the Space Marines are trying to bring it down with meltabombs and heavy bolters, Deadpool has a much more intimate approach. He looks at this 10-ton monster and says, "You know, you're big, you're ugly, and you've got a face only a hive mother could love. We have so much in common." He then proceeds to get himself swallowed. On purpose, the Imperial forces stare in disbelief. Did their weird, new ally just become Monster Chow? The Carnifex lets out a triumphant roar, but it's cut short. A muffled beat starts to pulse from within its massive torso. It's getting louder. The beast starts to spasm, looking confused. Then, with a spectacular, gut-wrenching explosion, the Carnifex is blown apart from the inside out. A geyser of alien viscera and chitinous. Plating rains down, and standing in the middle of the crater, completely unharmed, and dusting himself off, is Deadpool. He strikes a pose and shouts, "Anyone got a wet wipe?" It's a little soupy in here. And that's when the real madness begins. The Tyranids, being a hive mind, are baffled. This single, annoying biomass unit just won't stay dead. Deadpool gets vaporized by his own Thropes war blast. He regenerates. He gets torn to shreds by a pack of Hormigaunts. He pulls himself back together, complaining that they messed up his hair. He dives into another Carnifex. Boom. He gets eaten by a Moloch. Boom. He even tries to ride a Trigon like a bucking bronco before setting off charges strapped to its head. This isn't a battle anymore. It's a 6-hour, Alukanit, buffet of self-destruction and regeneration. He's single-handedly tying up a huge portion of the swarm. The hive mind is trying to process this anomaly. It sends more and more creatures to consume him, but every time they do, they just... explode. Deadpool is essentially a walking, talking, endlessly reusable bomb. The Imperial Guard use the distraction to regroup and fortify their positions. The Space Marines, initially horrified by his methods, can't deny the results. One of them, a stoic ultramarine sergeant, watches Deadpool reassemble from a puddle of goo and just quietly mutters, "For the Emperor, I guess," for 6 straight hours. This continues. The battlefield is a canvas of carnage painted with explosions and bad jokes. Deadpool is having the time of his life. He starts giving the bigger bugs nicknames. There's Fluffy, the Hive Tyrant, and Bitey, the Carnifex, and Spindly Jim, the lictor he keeps playing hide-and-seek with. He's not fighting a war. He's participating in the galaxy's most extreme sport. The Tyranid splinter fleet, designed to consume entire worlds, is being held at bay by one man who literally cannot be consumed. Eventually, the Hive Mind just gives up on that section of the front. It's a net loss of biomass. This one Radan black creature is costing in more resources than it's gaining. The swarm redirects, flowing around the Deadpool anomaly like a river around an indestructible, very annoying rock. He's created a one-man dead zone. He stands atop a mountain of bug parts, katanas resting on his shoulders, and yells at the retreating horde. What? That's it. I was just getting warmed up. We didn't even get to the karaoke part of the evening. The Imperial commander, now looking at a secured flank, doesn't know whether to award him a medal or have a commissar execute him for heresy. He settles for a cautious salute, which Deadpool returns with a theatrical bow. And just as suddenly as he arrived, he's gone, probably off to find another universe to annoy. He leaves behind a bewildered Imperial army, a very confused hive mind, and a battlefield that smells suspiciously of gunpowder and chimney. And that, my friends, is how Deadpool solved the Tyranid problem, by being too much of a problem himself. What do you think of that crazy crossover? It's the kind of beautiful chaos that happens when two insane worlds collide. Today, we redive in headfirst into the madness, where the grim darkness of the 40th millennium collides with the fourth wall-shattering chaos of Dead. Last time, we saw our favorite Merc, where the mouth gets snatched up by the Imperial Inquisition. Now, things are about to get even weirder. So, buckle up, grab your bolter, and let's get into Chapter 7. The Psychic Bomb. The Inquisition, as you know, deals with threats both mundane and Xenos. But what they found in Deadpool's head was something else entirely. As their astropaths and psychers cautiously probed his mind, they were unmet with the usual disciplined thoughts of a soldier or the dark whispers of a heretic. Instead, they found a swirling, chaotic vortex of pure, unfiltered energy. It was like staring directly into the warp, but with more chimichanga recipes and unsolicited pop culture references. One of the lead interrogators, a grim-faced psyker named Malachi, recoiled from his mental link, clutching his head. It's pandemonium, he stammered, his eyes wide. There are no coherent thoughts, only a ceaseless, screaming torrent of everything. Music, fourth wall breaks, arguments with disembodied voices. It's a psychic myth. This report landed on the desk of Inquisitor Vex, a man whose pragmatism was as legendary as his cruelty. Where others saw a dangerous anomaly, a mind so broken it bordered on demonic possession, Vex saw an opportunity. He saw a weapon. The energy radiating from Deadpool's mind wasn't just chaotic, it was a potent psychic static, a white noise that could disrupt and overwhelm other psychic entities. Vex assembled his inner circle. This entity, he began, gesturing towards the observation screen showing Deadpool humming show tunes in his cell, is a living psychic disruption device. His mind is a weapon, a bomb waiting to be detonated in the consciousness of our enemies. He let that sink in. The idea was radical, borderline heretical, but Vex was known for walking that fine line. They brought Deadpool into a heavily warded chamber, lined with arcane technology and humming power conduits. Inquisitor Vex stood before him, flanked by tech priests and servitors. "We have a new purpose for you. Anomaly," Vex declared, his voice devoid of any emotion. "You are to be our psychic grenade." Deadpool's eyes, visible through his mask, widened. A slow grin spread across his face. "A grenade? You're turning me into a grenade?" He let out a whoop of pure joy. "Finally, someone gets me. All my life, people have been telling me to be less explosive, to contain my personality. But you guys, you see my inner boom boom, and you're like, let's aim that at some aliens. I love you guys." Group hug. He spread his arms wide, only to be restrained by crackling power fields. The plan was simple, yet terrifyingly audacious. The Inquisition had located a splinter fleet of the Tyranid Hive, a tendril of the Great Devourer, making its way towards a vital agri-world. A single hive tyrant was coordinating the swarm, its psychic presence a beacon of command and control. Vex's plan was to get Deadpool close enough for his chaotic mind to touch the hive mind. They strapped Deadpool onto a modified drop pod, more of a guided missile, really. A tech priest attached a complex helmet to his head, a psychic amplifier, and focuser. It was designed to channel the raw mental chaos erupting from his brain and aim it like a lance. Okay, so this tinfoil hat makes my crazier, and pointier, Deadpool quipped, tapping on the helmet. Does it get HP? The tech priest ignored him, chanting binary prayers as he made the final adjustments. The device will form a temporary, focused conduit between the subject's consciousness and the target's psychic entity. The tech priest drove. Upon contact, the chaotic energy signature should, in theory, cause catastrophic cognitive dissonance. So, I'm gonna make the big bug brain so confused it gets a headache. Awesome, Deadpool said with a thumbs up. Operation Give the Hive Mind an Existential Crisis is a go. The pod was launched. It screamed through the void, a tiny metal coffin aimed at the heart of the Tyranid fleet. Inside, Deadpool was probably doing the Macarena. As the pod neared the bioship housing the Hive Tyrant, the psychic amplifier activated. A wave of invisible energy, a tsunami of pure, weaponized nonsense, surged from Deadpool's mind. Imagine the Hive Mind, a consciousness of billions of organisms, all unified in a single, silent purpose. Consume. It is a being of perfect, cold, predatory logic. Now, imagine what happens when Deadpool's thoughts slam into that perfection. First, there was a flash of a taco recipe, complete with a detailed debate on the merits of hard versus soft shells. This was immediately followed by the entire plot of a B-grade 80s action movie, complete with cheesy one. Then came a torrent of conflicting internal monologues, one voice demanding more pancakes, while another argued about comic book continuity. The Spice Girls wannabe played at full volume, followed by a lecture on the existential angst of a cartoon squirrel. TIB, mind an entity that had consumed galaxies, had never encountered anything like it. It tried to process the information, to find the threat, the logic, but there was none. It was like a supercomputer trying to solve an equation written in gibberish and drawn in crayon. Brief fours. The psychic link recoiled, not in fear, not in pain, but in sheer, unadulterated confusion. It was a psychic does not compute era on a galactic scale. The Hive Tyrant, the physical nexus of this link, shuddered violently. Its brain, a marvel of biological engineering, was being flooded with thoughts about the fourth wall, obscure pop culture trivia, and an overwhelming desire for On the Imperial Bridge, the astropaths monitoring the event collapsed, their noses bleeding. It's retreating, one gasped. The Hive Mind? It's pulling back. It's trying to quarantine the thought spill. The effect on the Tyranid fleet was instantaneous and catastrophic. Without the unifying psychic command, the swarm fell into disarray. Gaunts started attacking each other. Gargoyles flew in confused circles. Carnifexes simply stopped, their predatory instincts completely short-circuited by the mental static. The perfectly orchestrated symphony of death had been replaced by a cacophony of chaos. The Imperial fleet, seizing the opportunity, opened fire, tearing through the now disorganized alien ships. Deep inside the pod, which had now lodged itself in the fleshy hull of the bioship, Deadpool was just getting warmed up. "Hey, big bug brain," he projected. "You ever wonder if we're all just characters in some cosmic comic book? And what's the deal with airline food, am I right? Also, I'm thinking of redecorating this place. Needs more mauve. And a hot tub, definitely a hot tub Tava Mind, for the first time in its millions of years of existence, experienced something akin to a migraine. It severed its connection to that entire sector of space, sacrificing a whole splinter fleet just to escape the psychic noise. It was the equivalent of ripping off your own arm because a spider was on it. Back on Vex's ship, a stunned silence hung in the command center. Day at 1. They had turned back a Tyranid fleet not with shells and lasers, but with the incoherent ramblings of a madman. Inquisitor Vex allowed himself a rare, thin smile. He had his weapon. The psychic bomb was a success, and so our story takes another wild turn. Deadpool is no longer just a prisoner. He's the Imperium's most bizarre and unpredictable asset. What will they aim him at next? An Orc Wog, a Chaos Lord. The possibilities are as terrifying as they are hilarious. What if I told you the single greatest threat to the Warhammer 40,000 galaxy, the all-consuming Tyranid Hive Mind, was defeated not by a Primarch, a Space Marine chapter, or some ancient super weapon, but by Chimichanga and a show tune. Friends, gather round, because today we're diving into one of the most absurd, ridiculous, and frankly, hilarious what-if scenarios imaginable. What happens when the Merc with a mouth gets yeeted into the 41st millennium and comes face to face with a great devourer? Now, for those of you who might be new here, let's set the stage. The Tyranids are the ultimate biological horror, a galaxy-spanning swarm of chitin, claws, and teeth, all connected by a single, terrifyingly intelligent psychic consciousness known as the Hive Mind. It adapts, it learns, it consumes entire planets, turning all biomass into more It's a force of nature, a biological apocalypse that has brought the mighty Imperium of man to its knees time and time again. The Hive Mind's psychic presence is so overwhelming it creates a phenomenon called the shadow in the warp, a psychic dead zone that snuffs out astropathic communication and drives mortal minds to insanity. It is, without a doubt, one of the scariest things in a universe, already overflowing with scary things. Enter Wade Wilson, Deadpool, a man whose mind is, for lack of a better term, a dumpster fire of pop culture references, fourth wall breaks, and an unholy love for Mexican food. His brain is a chaotic mess, a side effect of his healing factor, which is constantly regenerating his brain cells, including the cancerous ones. The result? He's clinically insane, but in a way that makes him unpredictable, unkillable, and utterly immune to psychic intrusion. Psychics who try to read his mind are usually left as drooling messes, unable to process the sheer, concentrated chaos swirling around in his skull. So, let's picture the scene. A beleaguered Imperial Guard regiment on a forgotten agri-world is making its last stand. The skies dark with spore clouds. The ground trembles with the approach of billions of scuttling horrors. The shadow in the warp has descended. Their psychers are screaming, and all hope seems lost. Then, with a flash of weird, comic booky energy and the smell of gunpowder and old tacos, Deadpool appears. Maybe he was trying to teleport to a Comic-Con and his teleporter got hijacked by Tzinch for a laugh. Who knows? It's Deadpool. The how is less important than the what now. The Tyranids being the efficient eating machines they are. Don't hesitate. A swarm of Hormagaunts charges. Deadpool, probably complaining about the lack of a good chimichanga stand, draws his katanas and dual pistols and gets to work. To the Godsman, it's a blur of red, black, and viscera. He's bouncing off carnifexes, cracking wise while unloading clip after clip into swarming and generally making a complete mockery of what should be a terrifying last stand. The Imperial soldiers are just staring, completely bewildered. Who is this lunatic in the red pajamas, and why is he humming show tunes while dismembering a league? But the real show isn't happening on the battlefield. It's happening in the warp. The Hive Mind, this ancient, cosmic intelligence, detects a new presence. It's a strange mind, not like the terrified, screaming thoughts of the guardsmen or the disciplined minds of space marines. It's loud and confusing. The Hive Mind extends a psychic tendril to investigate, to understand this new variable. This is its standard operating procedure. Analyze, adapt, consume, and that's the Hive Mind's first and last mistake. The moment it makes contact, It's not met with fear or defiance. It's met with an unceasing, high-volume internal monologue. Ooh, spooky space bugs. Hey, you guys ever tried deep-fried butter? It's a game. So, what's the deal with all the teeth? Is it a dental plan thing? Because I know a guy. Also, fourth wall break. Hi YouTube viewers, don't forget to smash that like button for your boy Wade. Anyway, as I was saying, have you heard the soundtrack to The Greatest Showman? It's epic. Imagine the hive mind. This entity that has consumed countless civilizations, that embodies cold, brutal, biological purpose. It's suddenly being bombarded with non-stop, contradictory noise. It's getting a full frontal psychic assault of every meme from the last 20 years. Detailed arguments about whether pineapple belongs on pizza. The entire plot of every bad 80s action movie and a running commentary on the structural integrity of B. Arthur. The hive mind tries to process it. It tries to find a pattern, a weakness, a fear to exploit. But there is no pattern. There is only chaos. It's trying to categorize a thought that goes, chimichangas, chimichangas, chimichangas. Oh, look, a squirrel. I wonder if Wolverine ever has to use special adamantium-proof toilet paper. Gotta remember to ask him. Then, maybe we can get tacos. Tacos and chimichangas are different, you know? It's all about the deep frying. Hey, hive mind! You listening? We should totally open a food truck. We cooled Kali, the Great Devourer's Diner. Get it? This is not a mind. This is a psychic Dinny Love service attack. Baby mind for the first time in its millions of years of existence. Experiences a feeling it cannot comprehend. It's not fear. It's not anger. It's a combination of existential dread, a migraine, and the sheer, unadulterated cringe you feel when you remember something embarrassing you did in middle school. Back on the planet, something strange happens. The Tyranid swarm, ... pauses. The synapse creatures, the vital nodes that direct the lesser bioforms, begin to twitch erratically. A zoanthrope, a powerful psychic artillery beast, suddenly floats in place, its massive brain pulsing violently before it just pops like a balloon filled with gore. Then another. Aive, Tyranids Supreme Battlefield Commander, lets out a psychic shriek of pure agony and starts clawing at its own head before collapsing, its connection to the hive mind severed. The entire Tyranid swarm, from the smallest ripper to the largest biotitan, grinds to a halt. Without the direction of the hive mind, they revert to their basest animal instincts. They become confused, disorganized, even turning on each other. The shadow in the warp, that suffocating psychic blanket, dissipates almost instantly, replaced by a faint, psychic echo of, is that a barbershop quartet? The Imperial Guard, shocked and confused, seizes the opportunity. They rally and begin to cut down the now mindless creatures. They've won. The battle is over. The planet is saved. And they have absolutely no idea why. They just look over at the man in red, who is now trying to teach a terrified guardsman how to do the Macarena on top of a pile of dead Tyranids. The Inquisition would later spend centuries trying to figure out what happened. Their records would speak of Codex Entry, Anomaly 77B, a phenomenon where an entire Tyranid splinter fleet was neutralized by what their astropaths could only describe as a psychic migraine of incomprehensible stupidity. They would classify it as a miracle from the Emperor, a divine intervention of holy madness sent to smite the Xenos. Meanwhile, somewhere in the cold, dark void of space, the hive mind is curled up in a psychic fetal position, whimpering. It has encountered the one thing in the universe it cannot consume, cannot understand, and cannot defeat. A being whose insanity is a weapon more potent than any blade or bullet. It has learned a valuable lesson. It can devour stars, crack planets, and end civilizations, but it can't handle 5 minutes inside Deadpool's head. The headache just isn't worth it, and the psychic stain of the Chimichanga song will haunt it for millennia. So, there you have it. The day the 40K universe was saved by the power of pure, unadulterated nonsense. All right? Gather around, lore masters and heretics, because today we're diving into one of the strangest, most baffling, and frankly, hilarious footnotes in Imperial history. Forget the good Emperor for a second, and let's talk about the time a factory world decided to worship. Deadpool. Yes, you heard me right. The Merc with the mouth, the regenerating, degenerating self. This is the tale of the cult of red and regeneration. Our story begins on the smug-choked, grease-stained factory world of Orks. Imagine a planet that's one giant, unending assembly line. The air tastes of metal and despair, and the lives of the workers are a monotonous cycle of toil, sweat, and obedience. They serve the Imperium, forging the tools of war. Their lives as replaceable as the cogs in the machines they operate. Day in, day out. It's the same grinding reality. But in the grim darkness of the 41st millennium, sometimes the strangest seeds of hope or heresy can find purchase in the most unlikely soil. No one knows exactly how it started. Some say it was a flicker screen malfunction, a stray data burst from a forgotten pre-imperial archive that somehow beamed images and stories of an unkillable man in a red suit into the workers' hablock. Others whispered was a psychic echo, a warp dream shared by a desperate populace. Whatever the source, the legend of a being who could heal from any wound, who laughed in the face of certain death, and who broke the fourth wall of reality itself, began to spread like wildfire through the underbelly of Orks. To the downtrodden factory serfs, this figure was a revelation. In a galaxy where a paper cut could lead to a fatal infection and where life was cheap, the idea of infinite regeneration was nothing short of divine. They didn't call him dead. They didn't know that name. They gave him a title worthy of their reverence. Saint Wade of the Infinite Wounds. They saw his red suit not as tactical gear, but as the sacred color of spilled blood, freely given and instantly restored, a symbol of ultimate sacrifice and rebirth. Soon, the cult took shape. Secret gatherings were held in forgotten maintenance tunnels and disused smelting pits. Their hymns weren't solemn dirges, but repurposed factory chants mixed with poorly remembered one-liners from the sacred texts. Their iconography was fascinating. They would paint their tools red, and the symbol of their faith became two crossed katanazor. More accurately, two crossed industrial wrenches over a simple circle. They believed that by embracing chaos, humor, and a complete disregard for the rules, they could achieve a state of spiritual liberation, a kind of enlightenment that Saint Wade embodied. Their rituals were unconventional. Instead of flagellation, they practiced what they called the breaking of the fourth wall, where they would stop their work, look directly at a non-existent audience, and deliver a sarcastic comment about their foreman. Instead of quiet prayer, they'd engage in rapid-fire, nonsensical banter, believing it cleansed the soul. Their most sacred act. Sharing nutrient paste that was folded in on itself, a holy chimichanga, a foodstuff they'd only ever heard of in garbled transmissions, but revered nonetheless. Then, the impossible happened. The workers fell to their knees in stunned silence. Their prophet, their Saint Wade, was real. Deadpool, utterly confused, looked around at the grimy factory, the awestruck workers, and the hastily painted red wrenches on the walls. He saw a banner with a crude drawing of his mask and the words, "Heals goods, fights better." His first divine words to his new flock. Whoa. Did I take a wrong turn at Albuquerque? This doesn't look like the X-Mansion's bathroom. The cultists erupted in joyous cheers. This was it. The cryptic, nonsensical wisdom they had yearned for. They swarmed him, not for blessings of holy water, but for what they called the sacred pomme-to-pomme Deadpool, ever the people-pleaser, obliged with a flurry of hype. He cracked bad jokes about the machinery, made fun of the foreman's mustache, and asked if anyone knew where he could score a decent burrito. To the workers, every word was a divine sermon. His irreverence wasn't blasphemy. It was the ultimate truth. Life is absurd, so why not laugh at it? Of course, this level of unsanctioned joy and spontaneous worship could not go unnoticed. The local representatives of the Adeptus Ministorum, the Ecclesiarchy, began receiving panicked reports. Productivity in Manufacturum Gamenain had plummeted, replaced by high-fiving and laughter. An overseer, frothing at the mouth, reported that workers were refusing to meet their quotas until the Red Saint told them a knock-knock joke of divine significance. The Ecclesiarchy, Panicked. A new saint, one not on any approved imperial list, and one who encouraged sarcasm and chimichangas. This was heresy of the highest order. The local cardinal, a man whose face was permanently locked in a state of pious disapproval, nearly had an aneurysm. Within the hour, a full-scale heresy investigation was launched. The message sent to the holy ordos of the Inquisition was short and frantic. Unidentified demigod, possibly warp entity, has appeared on Oryxvarn, spreading joy and questionable humor, requesting immediate sanction. Send everyone. While the gears of the Imperial war machine began to grind towards Oryxvarn, Deadpool was having the time of his life. He taught the workers how to make paper airplanes out of devotional pamphlets. He organized a factory-wide game of the floor is lava using molten metal pits. He even tried to unionize the workers, demanding better pay, dental, and a mandatory Taco Tuesday. The workers, for the first time in their lives, felt something akin to happiness. They weren't just cogs in a machine. They were the blessed followers of Saint Wade. The arrival of the Inquisition was as subtle as black ships filled the sky, and stern-faced Inquisitors in Terminator armor teleported directly into the manufactorum. Bolters raised, they found Deadpool in the middle of telling a particularly terrible pun involving a servitor and a wrench. The lead Inquisitor, a humorless man named Krasinski, leveled his Stormbolter. In the name of the God Emperor, cease your blasphemous proclamations. Foul creature. Deadpool just tilted his head. Good Emperor? Is he new? Does he have a podcast? Also, nice hat. Very skull chic. Are you guys compensating for something? The Inquisitor, utterly baffled by this complete lack of fear or respect, ordered his retinue to open fire. And so began one of the most confusing firefights in Imperial history. The cultists, armed with wrenches and unwavering faith, tried to defend their saint. Deadpool, meanwhile, was a whirlwind of katanas and bullets, regenerating from every hit while providing a running commentary on the Inquisitor's fashion choices. The battle was short, chaotic, and ended as abruptly as it began. In the middle of dodging a Melta blast, Deadpool's interdimensional teleporter, which he'd apparently been fiddling with, activated. With a final, cheerful wave and a shout of "Smell ya later," skull-faced, he vanished, leaving behind a smoking crater, several dozen very confused Inquisitors, and an entire factory of newly inspired heretics. In the aftermath, the Ecclesiarchy did what it does best. It purged. The cult was brutally suppressed. But you can't kill an idea, especially one as ridiculous and infectious as the cult of Red and Regeneration. The legend of Saint Wade of the Infinite Wounds lived on. Even today, on factory worlds across the you might see a tool, handle painted red, or hear a worker whisper a bad joke when the overseer isn't looking. It's a small, foolish act of rebellion, a flicker of humor in the all-consuming darkness, a testament to the day the Merc with a mouth became a god, if only for a little while. And there you have it, the bizarre story of faith, funnies, and a whole lot of heresy. What do you think? Was this a Tizenchin plot, or just the universe having a good laugh? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this dive into the weird and wonderful corners of the lore, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more tales from the 41st millennium. Just when you thought the grim darkness of the far future couldn't get any weirder, it did. Weeks after let us call it the unfortunate incident involving the Merc with a mouth and a hive fleet tendril, the reports started trickling in. At first, they were dismissed as battlefield madness, the ravings of shell-shocked guardsmen. Soldiers were claiming to see giggling. Imagine it. You're dug into a trench on some forgotten agri-world, lasgon hot in your hands, a tide of chitin, and claws surges towards you. Standard stuff for the Imperial Guard. But then, you score a direct hit on a Hormagaunt, blowing a chunk of its carapace clean off. Instead of screeching in alien agony, you hear a faint, wet chuckle, and then you watch, in pure, undiluted horror, as the flesh knits itself back together, the wound closing in seconds. The creature, now pristine, looks at you, tilts its head, and lets out a maniacal laugh before leaping into your foxhole. This wasn't an isolated incident. From the frozen wastes of Valhalla to the jungle death worlds of Katachan. The stories were the same. Gaunts that would crack jokes, mid-charge carnifexes that would pause their rampage to admire their own destructive handiwork, and lick that would taunt their prey with a series of annoying clicks that sounded suspiciously like, "I know you were in there." The Astra Militarum was panicking. How do you fight an enemy that not only does undie but also seems to find the whole bloody affair absolutely hilarious? Morale plummeted faster than a drop pod without retro. Entire regiments broke and ran, not from fear of death, but from the sheer psychological terror of being killed by something that was enjoying it way too much. The reports finally reached the hallowed halls of the Adeptus Mechanicus and, more importantly, the shadowed chambers of the Inquisition. Magos Biologis tech priests, their augmetic senses worry, analyzed the tissue samples recovered from these. Abominations. The data that came back was so heretical, it nearly caused a system-wide crash. The Tyranid hyper-evolutionary genome was there, as expected, but woven into it, integrated with terrifying perfection, was a strand of aberrant human DNA. A strand that pulsed with an impossible regenerative energy. They traced its origin signature. The designation was obscure, ancient, from a long-lost corner of history, but the properties were unmistakable. A healing factor so potent it bordered on biological immortality, coupled with what the cogitators could only describe as meta-level synaptic chaos. It was Deadpool's. He hadn't just been eaten, he'd been assimilated. Hive Mind, in its infinite, ravenous wisdom, had consumed the one being in the multiverse it probably shouldn't have. It had taken his healing factor and, unfortunately, it had gotten a piece of his personality, too. The perfect, silent, all-consuming horror of the Tyranids was now tainted with fourth-wall breaking, chimichingling insanity. The Ordoxenos of the Inquisition immediately classified this new threat. They gave it a suitably terrifying and official-sounding designation. Wadeform designation. Pyramis Omega. The Lords of Terra decreed this new strain must be purged from the galaxy at any cost, lest the entire Tyranid race become an unkillable, wisecracking plague. Meanwhile, back on the planet where this all started, Dead, having finally regenerated from a single, very smug-looking cell, saw the new spicked captures of the new tier. He saw them regenerating. He saw them making goofy faces at Imperial propaganda posters, and he saw one trying to ride a screamer killer like a surfboard. A single tear of proud, chaotic joy rolled down his masked cheek. The Inquisition called them deep. The Imperium called them the Laughing Plague. But Deadpool, he looked upon his monstrous, chittering, fast-healing progeny and gave them a much better name. He called them Wadelets, and the galaxy would never be the same. The ultimate bio-horror had evolved. The silent scream of the hive mind was now punctuated by cosmic-level heckling. Could this be the end for the Imperium, or just the beginning of the universe's most violent and most confusing slapstick comedy routine? One thing is for certain. When a Wadelet charges you, you won't know whether to shoot it, run from it, or ask it for a good taco recipe. Thanks for diving into this insane what-if with me today. It's a crazy thought, right? Alright, picture this. The grimmest, darkest future imaginable. Titanic cathedrals of metal and stone pierce polluted skies. And inside one of these delightful holiday destinations, a group of very, very serious men in robes and power armor are having a very, very bad day. These are the Inquisitors, the galaxy's most feared internal affairs division, and they've finally cornered their most baffling target yet. Standing in the center of a stasis field, looking completely unimpressed, is a man in a red and black suit. That's me. Deadpool. They'd captured me mid-chimichanga, which, frankly, is a crime against humanity. The lead Inquisitor, a guy with a jaw so square you could use it to build a wall, steps forward. His voice booms, full of that self-important echo you only get from talking in giant, empty halls. Subject designated Deadpool. He intones like he's ordering a pizza with extra anchovies, and your existence is an anomaly. a blasphemy against the established order. You will submit to our questioning. We will peel back the layers of your psyche and expose the heresy within. I yawn, stretching dramatically. You guys talk a lot. You'll know that. It's like a book club, but with more skulls and fewer snacks. Speaking of which, anyone got this stasis field is really messing with my blood sugar. The Inquisitor ignores me. Of course, he does. They always do. Is it a creature of the warp? A demon thing given flesh? He asks his cronies. One of them, a tech priest with more bionics than a toaster convention, shakes his head. A series of clicks and whirs, echoing. Negative, Lord Inquisitor. Scans show no discernible warp signature. The subject's cellular structure is ... chaotic. It regenerates at an impossible rate. It is a mutant, but of a kind we have never encountered. Another Inquisitor. This one, a stern-looking woman with a flaming sword strapped to her back, scoffs. It is no mere mutant. Its words are madness, yet they hold a strange, prophetic quality. It breaks the sacred laws of reality itself. It could be a divine trial, a punishment sent by the God Emperor to test our faith. They start arguing, like full-on debating society. Demon, mutant, holy test. It's getting heated. I'm just chillin', watching the show. It's better than daytime holodramas. Finally, I decide to clear my throat, loudly. They all stop and look at me. Hey guys, can we just... I'll get along, I say, putting on my most sincere voice. You're all right, you know. You've all won a prize. They stare, confused. What? ... What does that mean? Abomination. Squarejaw grumbles. I give them my biggest, most charming grin from under the mask. It means I'm all three, baby. A demonic, mutant, divine punishment wrapped up in one tight spandex package. A triple threat. A heresy hat trick. Their faces are priceless. A mix of horror, confusion, and a tiny bit of oh crap. He might be right. While they're processing this existential bombshell, I spot my chance. My eyes dot around the room. High-tech containment gear. Grim-faced. Stormtroopers, Gothic arches, and one single, solitary elevator door. Above it, glowing in friendly, non-threatening letters, is a sign. What does it say? Plot convenience. Oh, you gotta love it when the writers are on your side. Well, this has been a blast, I announce, snapping my fingers. The stasis field flickers and dies. Don't ask how, just roll with it. The Inquisitors shout, alarms blare, and stormtroopers raise their laser rifles. Containment breach. Secure the asset. I make a mad dash for the elevator. Laser bolts sizzle past my head. One clips my shoulder. Ow. Hey. Watch the suit. This is dry clean only. I dive towards the elevator doors, slapping the up button with the palm of my hand like I am trying to win a game show. Come on. Come on. Elevator music and salvation, please. The doors slide open with a gentle ding. Inside, the lighting is soft, and there's a pleasant Musak version of some 80s pop song playing. It's a glorious sight. The Inquisitors are lumbering after me, their power armor not exactly built for sprinting. Stop him! He's using the forbidden passage. One of them yells. Forbidden passage? Dude, it's an elevator. I hop inside and start mashing the closed door button. Sorry guys, this car is for authorized personnel and handsome rogues only. Maybe next time. I give them a little two-finger salute as the doors begin to slide shut. The Lord Inquisitor roars in frustration, his voice echoing down the hall. We will find you, creature. There is no corner of the galaxy where you can hide from the Emperor's wrath. The doors close completely, cutting off his rant. I lean back against the wall of the elevator, the soft music washing over me. I pull up my mask, just enough to breathe. Phew. Close call. Note to self: Inquisitors have zero sense of humor and terrible catering. I looked directly into the camera, the one you guys are watching through. So, what did we learn today? We learned that when you're backed into a corner by humorless space fascists, always look for the exit labeled plot convenience. It's a real lifesaver. The elevator continues its ascent. Where's it going, you ask? Heck, if ich know, but I'm sure it'll be somewhere fun, or at least somewhere with tacos. Hopefully both. This whole adventure just goes to show you, no matter how grim and dark your universe is, there's always room for a little fourth wall breaking chaos. And never forget the chimich. Thanks for tuning in to my little escape story. If you enjoyed watching me give the forces of order a galactic-sized migraine, you know what to do. Hit that like button, smash that subscribe bell, and drop a comment telling me what ridiculously overpowered organization I should annoy next. And today, we're diving headfirst into a story so wild, so utterly heretical, yet so undeniably glorious, it could only happen in the darkest corners of fan theory. We're talking about the day the Merc with a mouth met the master of mankind. Strap in, because this is the tale of Inquisitor Death. Our story begins in the most treacherous and mind-bending location imaginable. The web, this labyrinth of psychic corridors, a shattered dream of the Eldar, is no place for a mortal. Yet, there he was, Wade Wilson, aka Deadpool. Somehow, someway, tumbling through its kaleidoscopic tunnels. How did he get there? A misplaced teleport. A drunken bet with a harlequin. Honestly, with Deadpool, any explanation is as likely as the next. As his fellow travelers, a motley crew of bewildered guardsmen and a very stressed-out rogue trader tried to navigate the shimmering non-Euclidean madness, Deadpool suddenly stopped. He cocked his head, a gesture made all the more bizarre by his masked face. "Hey guys, quiet down for a sec," he chirped. "I'm getting a call." The rogue trader, a man named Valerius, who had seen far too much to be surprised by anything. Simply, "Wilson, there are no phones in the webway. You are, as usual, succumbing to space madness." The guardsmen nodded in nervous agreement, clutching their lasguns a little tighter. The very air of the webway hums with the whispers of demons and the echoes of forgotten souls. Hearing voices is usually the first sign that your mind is about to be turned into psychic jelly. No, for realsies, Deadpool insisted, tapping the side of his head. It's a big one, like super important, gold-plated voice, lots of bass, smells faintly of ozone and god-tier disappointment. He's telling me, ... Wait for it, you are my chosen instrument of divine, fourth wall breaking justice, and something about his back itching for 10,000 years. Ouch. This was, of course, met with universal irony. The idea was preposterous. The good emperor of mankind, silent on his golden throne for 10 millennia, communicating directly with this crimson-clad buffoon. It was heresy of the highest order. The group's resident psyker, a sanctioned but deeply unnerved woman named Ilara, said, in pain, "All I feel is the usual psychic static, and a profound sense of dread," she muttered, and a faint, inexplicable craving for chimichangas. Deadpool just shrugged. "Well, your psychic radio is busted, lady. This guy's coming in loud and clear. He says, I'm his last, best, and most fabulously dressed hope for humanity. His words, not mine, though I do have a great tailor." He struck a dramatic pose, which was difficult in the shifting gravity of the webway, and resulted in him face-planting into a wall that tasted suspiciously of regret. Back in the material universe, across the entire million-world expanse of the Imperium of man, something impossible happened. For a fleeting moment, the Astronomicon, the psychic beacon of the Emperor himself that guides all interstellar travel, wavered. For 10,000 years, it had been a constant, blazing sun in the warp, a symbol of stability and the Emperor's eternal vigil. Navigators on the bridges of mighty battlecruisers and humble freighters alike felt their third eyes ache as the light flickered. Astropaths across the galaxy collapsed, their minds overwhelmed. High lords on Terra scrambled, their august chambers thrown into utter panic. Had the Golden Throne failed? Was this the end of all things? For a single, terrifying second, the light of the Astronomicon, the very soul of the Imperium, semed to thee. And then it returned. But it wasn't just the familiar, incandescent glare. For a split second, visible to every navigator, every psyker, and every soul sensitive to the warp's tides, the light of the Astronomicon coalesced. It shifted, shimmered, and formed three distinct, gigantic, shimmering golden letters that stretched across the psychic void. A message from the heart of the Imperium, from the mind of the Emperor himself. The message read, LOL. Just as quickly as it appeared, the message vanished, and the Astronomicon returned to its normal, steady blaze. But the damage was done. 1 trillion souls had witnessed it. Reports flooded the administratum, most of which were immediately classified and their authors executed for heresy. The Inquisition went into overdrive, trying to contain a truth so absurd it threatened to unravel the fabric of imperial dogma. The God Emperor, it seemed, had a sense of humor. Back in the webway, Deadpool picked himself up, dusting off his suit. He grinned, a wide, unseen smile beneath his mask, a single, golden terror. Maybe just a bit of portal rolled down his cheek. He snapped to attention, giving a crisp salute to the swirling chaos around him. Message received. Big, he shouted into the void. Loud and clear. Guess that makes it official, huh? The rest of the group stared, dumbfounded. The psyker Ilara was now on her knees, hyperventilating. I saw it, she whispered, her eyes wide with terror and awe. The golden light, ... It laughed. Valerius. The rogue traitor simply dropped his ornate plasma pistol. He had built his entire life on the rigid doctrines of the Imperial Creed. He had prayed to a silent, suffering God. The idea that this God had just shared an inside joke with the most annoying man in the galaxy was too much to process. His mind, for the first time in his life, was completely and utterly broken. Deadpool, however, was in his element. He rummaged through one of his many pouches. From a seemingly bottomless pocket, he pulled out an object that made everyone gasp. It was a Rosarius, a personal force field generator and holy symbol worn only by the most devout and high-ranking members of the Ecclesiarchy and the Inquisition. Where in the name of the throne did you get that? Valerius stammered, his brain rebooting with a surge of pure, unadulterated rage. Found it, Deadpool said cheerfully, clipping it onto his belt. The previous owner wasn't using it anymore. Something about being purged for radicalism. Anyway, finders keepers. He activated the device, and a faint, crackling energy field shimmered around him. He then struck another, more successful pose. Behold, he declared, his voice booming with mock seriousness. For I am the chosen instrument of the Emperor's will, his righteous fury, his divine punchline. From this day forward, you may refer to me as Inquisitor Dead. He paused for dramatic effect, letting the weight of his pronouncement sink in. The guardsmen exchanged horrified glances. This was heresy layered on top of blasphemy, wrapped in a shell of pure insanity. Deadpool wasn't finished. I am hereby founding a new ordo of the Imperial Inquisition, he continued, pacing like a general before a battle. We shall be the Ordo Ridiculous, the division of cool stuff and occasionally stabbing things. Our sacred duty will be to seek out the grim darkness of the far future and lighten it up a bit. Our first decree, mandatory tacos on all naval vessels. Our second decree, Agnon war size for the Emperor without a little jazz hands, is getting a stern talking. He pointed a finger at the still catatonic rogue trader. You, pointy hat. You're my first acolyte. Your new job is to carry my snacks and laugh at all my jokes. It's a high honor. Don't screw it up. He then turned to the terrified guardsmen. And you guys, you're my new retinue. Your uniforms are now officially hot pink. The Emperor wills it. Told me so. And so, as they continued their journey through the maddening expanse of the webway, a new, terrifying, and utterly baffling power had been unleashed upon the 41st millennium. An Inquisitor with a healing factor, a bag of infinite chimichangas, and a direct line to the Emperor's funny bone. The galaxy would never be the same. Whether this was the Imperium's salvation, or its final, most hilarious damnation, only time would tell. The holy heresy had begun. Alright, buckle up, Grimdark fans, and chimichanga lovers, because we're about to dive into the most beautifully chaotic crossover the galaxy has ever seen. Picture this: the grim, dark future of the 41st millennium, where there is only war. Now, drop the Merc, with a mouth right into the middle of it. That's right, we're talking about Deadpool and Warhammer 40. So, how did Wade Wilson, our favorite fourth wall-breaking anti-hero, end up in the Imperium of Man? Well, the theories are as wild as you'd expect. Maybe a warp-related teleportation mishap. Perhaps Dzinch, the chaos god of change and schemes, got bored and thought, you know what this galaxy needs? More tacos and meta commentary. Or, and this is my personal favorite, maybe Deadpool just annoyed a powerful enough cosmic being that they yeeted him across dimensions just to get some peace and quiet. Whatever the reason, he's here, and he's already causing trouble. The Inquisition, the Imperium's secret police, would normally just, execute someone like Deadpool on sight, an unkillable mutant with a mouth that never stops. That's like a checklist for heresy. But here's the twist. They can't. They've tried. Blamming him with a book, he just gets back up, complaining about the dry cleaning bill, trying to burn him at the stake. He asks for marshmallows. This presents a unique problem for the Ordo Hereticus. When you can't eliminate a threat, what do? You try to use it. So, they give him a job, sort of. An unofficial off the books, please just, point, him, at, our enemies. Kinda deal. They christen this new one-man army, the Wade Imperative. His mission: hunt down chaos cults, punch demons back into the warp, and generally be a nuisance to the forces of darkness. And Deadpool. He's having the time of his life. He's got new, ridiculously oversized guns, a power sword that he probably calls Pointy McStabus, and a whole galaxy of bad guys to annoy. Imagine him in a firefight with a Slaneshi noise marine cult. The cultists are blasting their sonic weapons, trying to overwhelm him with sensory overload. And Deadpool's just there, head banging to the music, asking if they take requests. Hey, you guys know? Careless whisper? Or picture him facing down a lumbering demon of The creature is oozing filth and disease, and Wade just pinches his nose and says, "Dude, have you ever considered a breath mint? Seriously, it's like a landfill at a baby with a forgotten gym sock." He'd probably try to read the Lectitio Divinitatesta, holy book of the imperial cult backwards, just to see if it summons a holy pizza. The Inquisitors watching on their pick screens are probably popping anti-anxiety pills like candy. But here's where it gets truly insane. Remember how Deadpool can regenerate from, like, a single cell? Well, somewhere in the cold, dark void of space, a Tyranid Hive fleet encountered a sample. Maybe it was a severed arm floating in space. Maybe a drop of blood on a forgotten battlefield. Hive Mind, in its infinite hunger, consumed it, and in doing so, it absorbed Deadpool's DNA. This creates something new, something terrifying and hilarious. The Wadeform, a new strain of Tyranid that is spreading across the galaxy. These aren't your typical, mindless, these Tyranids have a healing factor. They're unpredictable. They might suddenly start cracking jokes, mid-battle, or arranging their fallen enemies into a smiley face. A lictor, the ultimate stealth assassin, might pop out of the shadows not to kill you, but to tap you on the shoulder and yell, "Tag, you're it," before scuttling away, giggling. Can you imagine the horror of the Imperial Guard? A charging horde of Hormagaunts. But instead of just screeching, They're all yelling in unison. A Carnifex crashes through a wall, looks around at the terrified soldiers, and its multiple eyes seem to wink as it asks, "Did someone order a delivery of pancakes?" Hive Mind, the ultimate cosmic intelligence, is probably experiencing the galactic equivalent of a migraine, constantly hearing a voice in its head demanding more pancakes, and asking if its butt looks big in this new carapace. This development sends the Inquisition into a full-blown, galaxy-wide panic. They created a problem to solve another problem, and now their solution has been weaponized by the single greatest threat to organic life. The reports are flooding in from every sector. Tyranid swarms that break off their attack to Avedon Genestelar cults. They revealed themselves not with a bloody uprising, but by putting on a poorly rehearsed musical. It's madness. The Wadeform is a biological, psychological, and comedic weapon all in one. As Inquisitors scramble, trying to figure out how to stop an self-replicating plague of cosmic jesters, they turn to the only person who might have a clue what's going on. They confront Deadpool, showing him pick captures of these new, fourth-wall-aware Tyranids. They demand answers. What have you done? And Deadpool, in a moment of pure, unadulterated Wade Wilson glory, just turns, looks directly into the camera. Cameron gives a big, cheesy grin. "Don't worry, folks," he says, with a conspiratorial wink. Sequel bait. And that's the beauty of the Wade imperative. It's not just a story. It's a sandbox for pure, unadulterated mayhem. It's a hilarious, action-packed what-if. That perfectly blends the Grimdark with the goofball. What do you think would happen next? Would Deadpool have to fight an army of himself? Would he try to reason with a Wadeform hive mind? Let me know your craziest theories in the comments below. This is a rabbit hole of comedic potential, and I, for one, would love to see it happen. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this trip down the warp hole of insanity, don't forget to hit that like button, and definitely subscribe for more crazy crossover scenarios. We've got plenty more where this came from. Until next time, stay safe from heretics and fourth wall breaks.